Right, I haven't read this one yet, at least not recently, whereas I read the rest of them through. I don't think I had this one read to me as a child too often. It's a little long compared to the others, which might have something to do with it. You know, as I explained in the Flower Princess reading, I think I know what it's about, roughly. And I think he also kind of finds a friend, like a human friend or something like that, I don't know. Let's begin. On the side of a highway used by many merchants and travellers was an orchard, and in the orchard was a well of beautiful sweet cool water, which was the only water for many a mile. Also in the orchard was a cottage where lived a lonely little man. At least he would have been lonely if it hadn't been for all the travellers who stopped at the well for a drink. He had fitted a little bell to the well, so that as soon as a traveller moved the handle to get some water from the well, the bell would ring. And when he heard it, the little man would dash out of his larder, where he kept all sorts of lovely things to eat. There were pies, cakes, new baked bread and cheese. And he would put them all into a basket and take them to the traveller he was visiting as well. The travellers would always be grateful. "How much do I owe you?" they would ask, and the little man always replied, "Please tell me a story." A story was all he ever wanted in return. One beautiful summer's day, along came a traveller who was very thirsty. As soon as he dropped the bucket into the well to get some water, there was a tinkle, tinkle, tinkle from the little bell. The little man heard it, and he came out of his house carrying a big basket of bread, cheese, pies, and cakes to offer the weary traveller. Crying out loud. The traveller was pleased. "How much do I owe you?" he asked. "Not 1 penny," answered the little man. "But would you please tell me a story?" "I don't know any stories," said the traveller, "but a funny thing happened to me a few days ago when I passed through a village, the village at the foot of the Blue Mountains. It wasn't like most villages. I passed through, happy and gay. It was silent, and everyone I saw looked afraid. So when I went to get some bread, I asked the baker why everyone seemed so frightened. 'It's because of the dragon,' he replied. 'I've heard of the dragon,' I said, but surely there isn't such a thing.'" I don't know what it says. I said, "I've heard of dragons," I said, but surely there isn't such a thing." "There certainly is," said the baker. "He lives in a cave halfway between here and the snow, at the top of the mountains. That is why everyone is so afraid, because we are never sure what the dragon is going to do." "Does he hurt people?" I asked. "Oh, I see, he's telling the story. Does he hurt people?" I asked. The baker said, "No. He has never hurt anyone so far. But when the shepherd boys go up to the mountain after the sheep and the goats, he sometimes comes out in wars, a big terrible war. Then he blows flames down, and it terrifies the shepherd boys. The sheep and goats, it terrifies the shepherd boys, the sheep and the goats, and it frightens all of us in the village. Suppose he came down the mountainside, then what would happen?" "Is he there just now?" I asked. The baker looked thoughtful. "Well, that's a funny thing. We haven't seen him for a while. When the weather started getting warmer a few weeks ago, there was a bit of an avalanche, and we haven't seen him since then. I hope we never see him again." As the traveller told his tale, the little man was getting very interested indeed. "I must go and see if I can..." There's a blue man, I guess. "I must go and see if I can see this creature," he said. "I've heard of dragons, but I never believed that there was such a thing. Thank you so much for a wonderful tale. How far did he say the Blue Mountains were?" he asked. "About 14 days' walk along the highway towards the east. In about 7 days or so you should reach a stream. Follow it towards the mountains and you will come to the village." The traveller left, and the little man started his own journey. He walked for 7 days until he came to a stream that the traveller had told him about. By this time he had run out of water, but there was plenty of water in the stream to quench his thirst. By about the 13th day he had no food left and was so tired that he lay down by the side of the stream and went to sleep. When he woke the next day, he could smell bread being baked. He knew he must be close to the village and he was looking for. Following the smell of the bread, he soon found the baker's shop in the middle of the village. "Where are you going?" asked the baker, handing him some bread. "Well," said the little man, "I'm looking for the dragon. I suppose there is such a creature as a dragon?" "There certainly is," said the baker. "Or there certainly was, but I haven't seen him for a while." "Well," said the little man, "I want to go up and have a look at him, because I've never seen a dragon." "Cool. You are a very brave man," said the baker. The traveller said that he had never hurt anyone, and that all he did was warm and blow flames. "That's true," said the baker. "He hasn't hurt anybody." How do you know that he will then?" said the little man. "Perhaps he doesn't want to hurt anybody. Have you ever thought about that?" "Well, no," said the baker. "But why does he roar every time the shepherd boys go up the mountainside?" "I don't know," said the little man. "Why do dogs come out and bark? Why do the birds sing? There must be a reason, and I'm going to find out what that is. So I'll be on my way." It took the little man all day to climb the mountainside until he reached the cave. Then he found a sheltered spot nearby and went to sleep. The next morning he woke up early and went to the entrance of the cave. He shouted, "Hello, does a dragon live here?" There was a rumbling noise. "Hello, hello," he went on calling. "I hear that there is a dragon living here. A big, horrible dragon that roars and frightens the shepherd boys. Where are you, dragon? Are you in there?" Just then a really strange sort of noise. Just then there was a really strange sort of noise. It sounded like a boo-hoo-hoo followed by a splash. "What on earth is going on in there?" asked the little man, and he went further into the cave. "It is me," said a mournful, whispering voice. The dragon." For goodness sake. "The dragon? You don't sound a bit like a dragon. I thought all dragons were fierce creatures." "I am fierce," whimpered the dragon. "You don't sound very fierce to me. You sound as if you were crying," said the little man. "Why are you crying? I never thought for 1 minute that a dragon could cry. What's wrong?" "I can't roar anymore, and all of my flames have gone out," said the dragon. "The other day I was at the entrance of my cave when there was a big rush of snow. When I turned round to see what had happened, I swallowed some of the snow and my flames went out. I have a sore throat and I haven't been able to roar since." "Sounds like a dragon's cold to me. What do you want to roar and blow flames for anyway?" said the man. "Well, dragons are supposed to, and I haven't anything else to do." "No, I suppose not," said the little man. "Have you ever tried making friends with anybody?" "No one wants to make friends with me," sobbed the dragon. "I suppose no one wants to make friends with a dragon who roars and blows flames at them." "I think we'll have to do something about it," said the little man thoughtfully. The little man said thoughtfully. "Well, first of all, though," he went on, "I must make some sort of cough medicine for you." And off he went. After a little while he came back with various herbs and some blackcurrants. He found a bowl and a large ladle in the corner of the cave and mixed all the things together with a little water. Then he said to the dragon, "Now then, open your mouth and put your tongue out so that I can walk up it. So get a ladle full of cough mixture, carry it up to your tongue and throw it down your throat. So don't go and close your mouth fast or anything silly like that." "Oh no," said the dragon, "of course not." So the little man got a spoonful of mixture, walked very gently up the dragon's tongue and tipped the spoon. He gave the dragon several spoonfuls and then told him to go to sleep. The little man stayed up all night with the dragon, looking over him, and every so often giving him a dose of cough mixture. Next morning they both woke early. "Good morning," said the dragon. "Good, your voice seems fine again," said the little man. The dragon said, "Yes, but what about my flames? How can I get them back?" "Well," said the little man, "what are you going to do with your flames if you get them back? Are you going to promise me that you won't frighten the shepherd boys, or the sheep, or the people in the village anymore?" I promise," said the dragon. So the little man got to work with his herbs again, and this time he made a potion like spirit, which he poured down the dragon's throat once more. Then he made a torch with straw tied on the end of a stick, lit it and stuck it down the throat of the dragon. There was a large reef and the dragon breathed out. Huge flames came from his mouth, and the little man had to jump back for his life. "I do wish you'd be careful, Mr. Dragon," he said. "You nearly burnt me there." "I am sorry," said the dragon. "I didn't expect it. It was really wonderful, but I won't do it again. Let's go outside for a breath of fresh air." They hadn't been outside for more than 3 minutes before the dragon spotted the little shepherd's boy coming up the mountain and began to roar, and even began to blow flames. This annoyed the little man, for the dragon had broken his promise to him. He ran up the mountain side as fast as he could and found a big ball of snow. He started to roll it faster and faster down the mountainside, and then he shouted, "Dragon, dragon, look here." The dragon looked around, and as he did, the snow went right inside his mouth. There was a hiss of steam, and psst, it put out his flame again. The dragon was annoyed and upset and began to cry. "Now wait," said the little man. "Don't get upset and don't cry. You're making a flood all down the mountainside." "Well, look what you've done. I'm just back to where I was before," said the dragon. "You promised and you broke your promise," the man said sternly. "I'm sorry," said the dragon. "I really didn't mean to, but I don't know what to do." What is a dragon supposed to do with his flames and his roar? I don't know about your roar, but I do know what you can do with your flames. Lots of things, said the little man. First of all, though, how would you like to be friendly with the villagers instead of frightening them? Surely that would be better. Oh, I would love to have friends, said the dragon, but nobody will speak to me. I think they will if you have a word with them, said the little man. Now we must get your flames back again, and after that I shall go down and see the villagers. You must promise not to roar and blow flames while I am down there, otherwise you'll only frighten them all over again. The little man lit the dragon's flame again and went all the way down the mountainside towards the village. The first person he met in the village was the baker, who was very surprised to see him again. When he heard what had happened, the baker got all the villagers together and told them the story, but they weren't at all sure what to do. Surely, said the little man, it's better to have the dragon as a friend than to be frightened of him all the time. He can do quite a lot for you. The younger men of the village agreed. It was about time they had made a pact with the dragon, they thought. They decided to go up and meet him. So all the younger men of the village started trekking up the mountainside with the little man. When they got halfway up, the dragon stuck his head out of the cave. He could see the little man, who waved to him and shouted, "Hey, come down, come down." "Is it all right?" asked the dragon. So the little man turned to the young villager and said, "Is it all right?" And they all shouted, "Yes, yes, come down." The dragon was pleased, and he started down the mountainside. It didn't take him long, for he took huge steps as he came thundering down. Soon he came to the young men of the village, and the little men said, "There he is, the dragon you've been so afraid of. He's not really a fierce dragon at all, he just wants to be friends." "Will you be his friends?" All the young men of the village said, "Yes, we'll be your friend if you'll be ours." The dragon said, "Certainly, I'll be your friend. I've always wanted friends, and I've never had any at all before." They all cheered and said, "Let's go back down to the village." "Jump on my back," said the dragon, "I'll take you all there." So everyone climbed on the dragon's back and he took them down to the village. When he got there, there was no one to be seen, and the villagers were hiding behind the walls and houses and the church. "Come out," said the young man, "come out and meet our friendly dragon." And one by one they all came out. The old people and the young people and the children, to meet the people. "There's the little man. That's the dragon who wants friends. Will you be his friend?" Yeah, that's right. The villagers in one big shout said, "Yes, we'll be his friends. We would love to be his friends." The dragon gave a huge roar and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to roar. It's just that I was so pleased." "Don't worry," said the men of the village. "As long as you're happy, that's fine. We can all be happy again." "Of course you can," said the little man. And he looked around. "Where's your baker?" "Here I am," said the baker. "I'm just going to bake some bread." "Have you lit your fires yet?" asked the little man. "No, not yet," was the reply. "Well, there you are," said the dragon. There you are, Mr. Dragon. There's a little job for you." stick your head through that big door over there. You see that hole there? There's a fire. That's a fire to the bakery ovens. Just blow some flames in there. Blow some flames? You said not to blow flames, said the dragon, puzzled. The little man said, you can blow flames just this once into that hole there. The dragon blew, whoosh, and in next to no time the coke was hot. The bread and the cakes were baking, and everything was almost ready. Oh, I am happy, said the dragon. Is there anything else I can do? The little man looked around. Does anybody ever swim in the lake? He asked, pointing. No, said the boys, it's much too cold to swim in. There you are, Mr. Dragon. If you want to be friends with the little boys, warm the water up. The dragon instantly blew his great flame into the lake. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Is this warm enough yet? The little boy put his hand in the water. Ooh, it's just right, thank you. In a few minutes, all the boys were splashing about in the water. The dragon went on doing all sorts of things to help. And very soon everybody in the village liked him. The little man was pleased too, because he decided to live in the village with all his new friends, and they all lived happily ever after. And that's the end paper. I think this same graphic appears in the what we call it, bedtime rhymes book as well. Couldn't be sure of that. Maybe it's a new thing. I'll have to find my original copy, or I'm planning to not re-buy this book, but I'm planning to buy the other books, and I may have to buy this book again, but in an older form, and this is quite new, and if that happens then I guess I'll be eBaying this or something, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I just realised there's a interesting lack of women, in any of these stories. I mean, it is the blue book, I suppose. You could have been thinking, well, in the early 80s that blue is a boy's colour. I don't know what the other books are like, but yeah, I mean, that story, it was just all men, wasn't it? And even the Flower Princess, the only women, I think, in the whole book, other than Ben's mother, was the little baby and the fairy queen. All the workers are men, all the little elves. So I don't know how they make more elves, unless I'm just assuming. I don't remember. I didn't particularly enjoy that story. But yeah, not a lot to say. I mean, I tell you what, there was a typo here that I noticed, and I wouldn't mind, but this is like a clearly a much later copy. Where is it? There it is. This is clearly a much later copy. There it is. That I shall is all one word, and then there's no space between though and villagers. I don't know how much it would cost to reset a book like this. I assume it was, printed the old-fashioned way. I don't know what the printing method for these books was in the 80s. I guess the same as it was in the 50s or the 20s. I don't know, I just got no idea. But also, I don't know how much it would cost to reset, just that little bit of text to sort of correct that error. I mean, it wouldn't bugger up the paragraph too much, would it? Because, no, you wouldn't bugger it up so that they'd have to rearrange all the artwork and stuff. Yeah, that's not the page. That is, no, there's plenty of room. So, I don't know. I wouldn't mind if this was like a first edition or something like that, but this has got to be printed, this one, The original was 30p, according to my limited research. I haven't found my original copy, otherwise I'd be reading from it. But, looking for the other books, I think the original prices were 30p. This is 70p. But anyway, there's a small, and not even complaints, but just something that I noticed. So yeah, I guess the order that I filmed these in, I read The Mouse Who Couldn't Eat Cheese first, and then Tonga the Growling Tortoise, then Ben Rescues a Hedge Pig, then The Flower Princess, and finally The Dragon of Blue Mountain. And, I do intend to certainly get the other books. The green book seems to be the rarest one, so I don't know if that's the best one. So I'll be getting that and probably reading that next. And then I want to get the other two as well, the red and yellow book. They all have different pictures down there, which I wasn't aware of. I think the yellow one has a teddy bear. I think the green one has a doll, or the red one has a doll, so maybe all the characters in there are prominently female, I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know, but yeah, and I'll probably be reading those live, without reading them through first, because, that was cool. I enjoyed that, so I'll see you then.